Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Soccer Podcast, Australia's #1 soccer talk show. My name's Shannon, and I'm joined by Alex Smith for Premier League tipping for Matchweek 26 of the Premier League. Alex, welcome to the Soccer Podcast.
Cheers, man. Good to be here from a hotel room, but we keep going no matter where we are.
That's right. All right, let's get straight into the action, Alex. There's some big Premier League games this week, and a lot's happened since we last spoke. Manchester City are now top of the Premier League table. Obviously, they played that extra game. Liverpool have a game in hand. But let's go through the games now. We've got Fulham versus Man United. What is your tip, Alex, for this one?
Well, I don't know how anyone can tip against Man United at the moment. So I've got a United win. I think they're just riding this wave for all they can ride it, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon. So I'll go Man United to get the 3 points.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going with Man United as well. I think Fulham, too much issues that they've got. They haven't been anywhere different this time under Ranieri. I think they're really still struggling. And Man United, to the contrary, the new manager came in and he's got them playing in the Man United way. So they are away from home. But I think, Man United, too strong, should take all 3 points. But in the next game, who we got there?
Next up, we've got West Ham at away to Crystal Palace.
This is an interesting one because both teams have been very inconsistent performers the whole season. I think I have to go with West Ham. I think I just have to go with West Ham. I think Crystal Palace far too up and down, although they have had their moments, but I'm going to go with West Ham. But again, Alex, what must be remembered is that West Ham seem to only do well against some of the bigger teams. Crystal Palace aren't one of the bigger teams, but I still have to go with West Ham. I think they'll have too much quality for Crystal Palace, but I'm interested to know, what do you think of that game?
I'll tip a draw on this one. I think Crystal Palace at home, and the inconsistencies of West Ham throughout the year. Crystal Palace being one of the lower positioned teams in the table. West Ham traditionally, or at least this year anyway, don't play too well against those sorts of teams. So I think a draw could be on the cards for that one. Just too inconsistent from West Ham. One day they'll beat Arsenal, and the next day they'll lose to a bottom team. So I'll go with a point apiece in this one.
All right, now talking about Arsenal, they play Huddersfield. They're away to Huddersfield. What do you think of that game?
Yeah, I think this will be fairly straightforward for Arsenal. Even though it's away from home, I just think that Huddersfield, they're not going to offer much resistance. Arsenal will have 70-80% of the ball. I think to tip anyone else would be a bit crazy. So Arsenal for the 3 points, definitely.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Arsenal will definitely win this one. At least we hope so, Alex. We know there's been quite a few hiccups and big results. Not that we expected any of those in the last few weeks. So I think Arsenal will win. I think they'll do it comfortably. Defensively, they still have their issues. I think Unai Emery is still trying to get his philosophy across to some of those players. I think there's no question of that. It's going to take time. But Huddersfield, there's no question either that they're going to be relegated at the end of the season. Since Wagner's left, the manager, I think he just completely knew the task was too big ahead of him and decided to leave, which is never a good sign for a football club. So I think Arsenal to get the win.
Yep, I'll agree on that one. Next up, we've got Liverpool at home to Bournemouth. Very interesting game after last weekend's results. So interested to hear what you think about this one.
I think Liverpool will win, but I think Bournemouth can definitely cause an upset, Alex. I think, it's at Anfield. The home supporters will obviously be behind Liverpool. And Liverpool, they did, struggle in their last game. So I think Bournemouth, they've turned a corner in the last few weeks. They're back to finding their best in the Premier League. And I think with the quality players that they've got, both defensively as well as up front, they can definitely cause Liverpool problems if they're not on their top at their best, Liverpool. But Liverpool as well, Alex, I think they're expected to win this game. They're at home. They've got the players, that can easily hurt Bournemouth just as equally. So I think they know, that Manchester City have now overtaken them, but they've got that game in hand, and they need to win this one if the title race is to remain open.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a must-win game for Liverpool. I think they're going to bounce back, and I think they're going to bounce back quite comfortably. I could see this one being 3-4-0. I just think that it's a different Liverpool team than previous years. And after the weekend's results, I think Klopp will have them, raring to go and make up for the points lost on the weekend at home with the Kop. I just think Bournemouth are going to struggle, and I can see this being comfortable for Liverpool.
Yeah, as I say, Bournemouth, they really have turned the corner. I mean, they went, I think, their last 8 games, they only won 2. So they have turned the corner, Alex. Once they dropped into that mid-table, I think they've managed to kind of regain a little bit of momentum, a bit of form. And they had to. The win for them against Chelsea was massive. No one thought that they'd go to Chelsea and win 4-0. So who's to say they can't go to Liverpool and cause an upset there? But I tend to agree with you. I'm going with Liverpool. In the next game, though, Alex, I think we've got Southampton and Cardiff. But I just want to say before we get onto that game, I think in terms of the title race, while we're talking about Liverpool and Manchester City, I think both Liverpool and City are going to drop points still this season. I don't think neither of those two teams will win all their remaining games. I still, we're going to talk about Manchester City having to play Chelsea in a second. So I think there's still some massive games ahead. The title race is wide open. You even got Tottenham in the mix as well. So I think Liverpool, they'll definitely drop points. There's no question about that. We saw that last week. Manchester City as well. They are beatable. We know that. So very interesting. But let's talk about the next game, which is between Southampton and Cardiff.
I'm going Southampton for this one. I think it's a massive game for both teams. I think a win for Southampton puts them up 3-4 places potentially. So and a win for Cardiff City, it moves them a bit further away from that from that relegation zone. So massive game for the two teams. I just think Southampton. They found a bit of form in the last month or two, and I just think they're just a better football team. They've got more quality, and being at home, it means so much to these games in the lower half of the table. So I'll tip Southampton to take 3 points.
Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to go with Cardiff. I think the previous results warrant that. Alex, I think I'm going to go with Cardiff. They are away from home. Southampton definitely on the rise in the last few weeks. But Cardiff, they won their last game. And I think what impresses me the most about Cardiff is they know how difficult at the start of the season it was going to be, to stay in the league. But they've always, despite not having the best players and that kind of thing, they've always shown the hunger, the fight. And that's what's kind of getting them in a closer position to safety. So I think Cardiff will do well against Southampton this week. There's no reason why they can't back up their performance. Bobby Reid, he's a player that can, cause problems. He's an attacking player. He's got goals in him. One or two other Cardiff players as well. Harry Arter, the former Bournemouth player, he's a very good player in that centre midfield. And defensively, they have been poor for most of the season, but I have seen enough of them to still, definitely get a win against Southampton.
I think the other thing also maybe just mention is obviously the Salah situation with Cardiff. That could do one of two things to the team. I think it can really kind of galvanise them and bring them all together. But it's also, it can make you quite down and pretty somber. So the fact that they've just recovered his body and it's all confirmed that he's no longer with us. I think I think that can have a massive effect on the team and the manager, which I think it has. So I'll be interested to see how Cardiff kind of respond and try and honor his memory, I guess. But it's tough to play football when stuff like that happens.
Yeah, and we also saw a similar situation, obviously, when the Leicester City president, obviously that tragic incident with the Leicester City chairman, so which wasn't too many months ago either. So yeah, Leicester City, they would drain the players, and but yeah, obviously they tried to put in the best performance, and I don't think that weekend that they did manage to get a win. So it can go one of two ways, but it's a good point, Alex, that you raised there. So obviously, Cardiff last week with this whole thing with Emiliano Sala was already going on in Cardiff. They got the 3 points. So it's a good point that you raise, and we'll see if they can back it up this weekend against a Southampton team.
Definitely. Well, we'll see what happens there. But the next game up, we've got a pretty interesting game, I think, for me. Watford at home to Everton. Who do you got in this one?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one because obviously Marco Silva used to be the manager at Watford. He's now obviously the current manager of Everton. I think he's done really well where at every club that he's been. His philosophy on the way that football should be played is the right one. Everton now reaping the benefits, but Watford haven't done too badly themselves with Javi Garcia at the helm. So very interesting game. Both teams, I think, have got a lot of quality. It's very difficult to pick a winner in this one, Alex. Obviously, you look at some of the players Watford have got with Troy Deeney, Deulofeu, even Perez, the left winger. Defensively, they've been pretty good this season as well, hence they're standing in the table. Everton as well, you got Richarlison. I must admit with him, I thought he would get more goals this season. He started the season like a house on fire, scoring from almost impossible angles, but that's kind of worn off a little bit, I think, but they've got other players, Walcott and Sigurdsson, Calvert-Lewin, the list goes on for both teams. So I have to probably go with a draw in this one, but if I had to tip a winner, I probably would go with Watford.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that. I think it's pretty tough to split these teams. I would lean towards Watford as well. I just think Everton have been extremely inconsistent. In terms of players like Richarlison, I didn't realise this, but he's actually a winger, and he's been playing up front for him pretty much all season. So, yeah, I don't think the manager has everything that he wants, and I think results have kind of shown that. So, 8th and 9th position on the table, very similar point tally, very similar teams in terms of talent and organization and structure. So I'll tip a draw as well. I'll go with you on that one.
Yeah, it's going to be tight, interesting game. And then we've got Brighton versus Burnley, and that's another tight encounter, you would think, Alex.
Yeah, definitely another massive game in the scope of the season, and even relegation points pretty much up for grabs here. So I just think I've got a feeling that Burnley might get something out of this game. So I'm going to go for a draw on this one as well. Brighton at home, are fairly solid. I just have the feeling that Burnley might jag a point here away from home. I could see it being a 0-0 if I'm honest. So they'll split the points, I think.
Yeah, it's really, really tough. I think I don't know. I think either it's going to be a draw or a Burnley win. I think two teams, there or thereabouts, mid-table, but it's very difficult to call. I think Burnley definitely on the rise. They much improved in the last few games. Obviously, they started the season really, really terribly, but then you've got Brighton who, they picked up some, crucial points for a team of their caliber. So I think it's very difficult to call. I think they've got one or two decent players like Mooney and one or two others, and then you got Burnley, Barnes and Chris Wood up front, and it's a very English-based side. I think it's a difficult one, Alex. I think I have to say probably a draw.
Yeah, I think each team they both have quality keepers, which does make a difference in the Premier League. Obviously, Matty Ryan and Joe Hart playing for Burnley. So I just think that when points are on for offer, I don't think either of them are going to probably go for it. I think both teams probably be happy with a point. I just think I think it might end up in a draw. So that's what we'll go with for that one. Next game, another massive game. We've got Tottenham at home to Leicester, who have taken points off a few teams in recent weeks. So interested to hear who you think's gonna win this one.
Yeah, another interesting game. I think I have to go with Tottenham. I think they still, Alex, are in the Premier League title race. They're in third position. I think Leicester City are a great team. I think they play well under Claude Puel. There's been in the media a little bit, of speculation if there's been a rift between Puel and Vardy, because Vardy says, he doesn't really fit into the style of play that Puel wants to play. But he has been effective. He has got goals this season. So I don't know. I think Tottenham will just edge it. That the onus is definitely on Tottenham as well. In terms of being the home team, but also still being in the title race. We spoke earlier in the show about Liverpool and Manchester City. I think they're still going to both teams will drop points. There's no question about that. There's still a lot of football to be played. Tottenham, if they want to, be a contender for the Premier League, they have to be beating teams like Leicester. And I think definitely now with the players that they've got, although they don't have Harry Kane, I think a big recall to the side from the Asian champions, the Asian Cup was Son, because they missed him dearly when he was playing at the Asian Cup. And I think what he brings to the team is that flair, that creativity, and he can score goals as well. So I think they should just edge at Tottenham against still a very good Leicester team. But I want to know what do you think?
Yeah, I think Tottenham will win this at home. I don't think they're still in the title race. I just don't think they have the firepower to get there this year. However, against a team like Leicester, I think they match up fairly well. And I think the directness of Son will, like you said, really help. A lot of pace, a lot of just raw energy, just running at teams. I think that's gonna help quite a bit. So my good mate Fernando Llorente to keep doing the business as I thought he would, and Tottenham to get the 3 points at home in this.
Yeah, and just on that as well, I mean, obviously up front, Tottenham, without Kane, I think without Kane in the last game, they created a lot of chances, Alex. I watched that game and they created a lot of opportunities, but they didn't have that, the final finish. I think they could have been up 1 or 2 to the good, especially in the first half in their last game, but they just didn't have that killer player, Harry Kane for Pochettino to call on. But I think what's important to note as well, that's obviously the attacking component, but defensively against Leicester, we all know that Leicester are probably the best counter-attacking team in the Premier League. So I think obviously going forward, they want to have that killer instinct, Tottenham, but they're going to have to be wary of Leicester City's counter-attacks as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's a theme of the last few years. I do think United this year give them a run for their money as one of the better counter-attacking teams. Some of the goals that United have scored on the break have been absolutely just sensational. With those young players over there, raw pace, and you got the likes of Pogba threading people through. I think the one Rashford scored against Tottenham actually was a brilliant counter-attacking goal. So. I'd have to put them up there this year in terms of counter-attacking football. but yeah, I just don't think it's going to be enough against a Tottenham team. So
let's talk then about the next game, which is a massive one, Alex. It's Manchester City versus Chelsea.
well, you're not going to like me, but I think City are going to take this one. I think Chelsea over the last month or so they've been pretty inconsistent. I think coming off a win last week, but a loss before that. I just think it's going to take some time for Higuain to find his way around the pitch with all his teammates. So this is the weekend I'm tipping United to finally claw back into the top four with Chelsea losing and United winning. So I just think City they've been given a lifeline. They're not going to they're not going to give it up now. I don't think Pep's going to let them slip again. So I can't see them dropping points the rest of the season.
Okay, well, yeah, I know. Look, I agree with you. I think Manchester City, Alex, at home at the Etihad, and I think that I think they've in the last few seasons they have done well at Chelsea there. So I think Manchester City will probably win this game. I mean, obviously, there's no one can say that Chelsea can't go there and take all 3 points, but I think with the way that things are going, I think Manchester City will win this game. I think obviously with both teams going to try and keep that ball, keep possession. That's what they both look to do. But yeah, Chelsea very inconsistent. They started the season so brightly, so lively. There was a lot of hype around Surrey and what he brought to the club as a manager. But I just think you're right, Manchester City. They're going to want to back up their performance last week with the win. And they know that they're playing against a good Chelsea side despite being in fourth place. But I think, Alex, as well, that Chelsea, I think they have some big problems. I think defensively they have some real issues. I think David Luiz still, I watched him play in last game and the week before, and he just was a ball watcher, which resulted in the goals. And I think that going forward, Higuain's a good acquisition for them. He got 2 goals last week, but I think against Manchester City, it's going to be more difficult with the centre-backs that they've got, John Stones, Laporte. It's going to be very difficult for him to find that link-up. And Eden Hazard as well, Alex, his form's been very up and down. Again, he started the season very brightly, which had a lot to do with Chelsea's, position in the table at that stage. But we haven't seen. I think he might have scored last week, but he's not. The goal ratio is not what I expected. I really did think Eden Hazard this season would get maybe 20 goals minimum, and I just think he hasn't really managed to maintain his very high standards. I'm going to go with Manchester City.
Yep. I'd probably agree with you. I think the speculation surrounding Hazard as well might be playing on the team. I just don't think he's that type of player to score 20 goals every season. I don't think he's just not that type of player. So I think all the stuff that's come out this week about him going to Real Madrid and that he basically said he wants to go. I think that might have an effect as well. So we'll go see.
I think it's time that he does leave. He's done everything at Chelsea. I think he hasn't won the Champions League. I think when he arrived, they had just won the Champions League. So I think in terms of what he's going to win at Chelsea, Alex, I think he's pretty much won it all for what where the club is right now, the stage that they're at. I think he has to go to Real Madrid. The speculation isn't helping the team. I think one day Eden Hazard is saying he wants to stay at Chelsea because he's happy there, his family is happy there. But then, other days he wakes up and he says, of course, why not Real Madrid? So it's difficult, and I think, that really causes a little bit of uncertainty. But Chelsea have other problems, Alex, beside Eden Hazard. I think defensively they really are lacking, and I think going forward, that striking role, Higuain, I agree with you, he's not that long-term option, especially not at his age. So I think, these are the kind of issues that they've got. And, then you've got Sarri as well saying he's finding it difficult to motivate his players. And then he's obviously saying as well that they don't have the mentality to compete. So they've got their issues, Chelsea, and that's why they fourth in the table, and Man United clipping at their heels.
Yeah, definitely. All right, last game. We're rounding off with Wolves at home to Newcastle.
Okay, I'm going to go with the Wolves win. I don't have too much doubt in my mind about this one. I've been really impressed, as has everyone, I think, by Wolves and their performances. Nuno, he's a fantastic coach. He's got the balance in the team in that Wolves side, and then the depth in the team as well is second to none. So yeah, I mean, even when you've got a player like is it Adama Traore coming off the bench with all that pace, a player of his quality, pretty much only being used as a sub or an impact kind of player, just shows you the level of competition in that Wolves team, the competition for places. And of course, there would be, I mean, Doherty and Shota and Jimenez and Neves and Martino, and, the list goes on, Alex. I think in this game, I have to go with Wolves. Newcastle, I think Rafa Benitez has done a tremendous job. I think Newcastle are going to be safe this season. And limited funds, as is the usual course of events at Newcastle. So Newcastle, they were really in trouble at the beginning of the season. They couldn't get a win, but now that's all changed, and they're not playing particularly well by any means. And they set up very, very defensively. I watched the last game where they were playing, I think, with five at the back, three centre halves and then the two wing backs kind of thing. So that's kind of the way that Benitez feels that they have to play in order to stay in the Premier League, and hopefully maybe once the window opens again or the new season comes and they're in the Premier League, then he can try and build on it. But I think I have to go with Wolves. They're playing very good football. The intricacy of their play and the link up, the combination play will cause Newcastle two problems. But sometimes that can be difficult, Alex, when teams do sit back. It can be difficult to break them down nonetheless. So an interesting game, but I think Wolves will win this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. Wolves form over the last about 5-6 games has been pretty incredible. They lost to Man City maybe about a month ago, but since then I don't think they've lost a game. So in the last 6 games, I think they've scored 15 goals. So they're actually translating their possession and all their talent into goals, which is a massive thing for a team. So I've got Wolves winning comfortably. However, I didn't see Newcastle taking anything off Manchester City. So if anyone can do it, I'd say it's Newcastle. But I just see Wolves at home winning this quite comfortably, just like you.
Yeah, and with Wolves as well, I think what's good about their team is that they really share the goals around. There's players in that team where they're not reliant, like some teams on their strikers to go and do the business. Like something like West Ham, or they really do share the goals around. I mean, Jimenez is obviously the main man up front, but then you've got Shota and O'Doherty, even from right back, as that right wing back scoring goals, on a consistent basis. So they're a good team, Wolves, and I think they'll take all 3 points. But Alex, that's all the games for this week of Matchweek 26 of the Premier League. Any final thoughts? Because it's looking to be a massive week in the Premier League.
Yeah, massive week. Basically, the main themes from this weekend is how Liverpool respond to a fresh title challenge. Things are a bit closer. A few massive games on the relegation side of things, and I'll be interested to see how the Chelsea Man U thing comes out in the end as well. I think this could be a big weekend for that fourth spot. As well as top spot. So should be a good weekend. I look forward to chatting to you next week.
Yeah, definitely. And just before we go as well, in terms of that title race, what really kind of took me by surprise was, how Manchester City, obviously they lost to Newcastle, but then Liverpool had the game after them. And they really knew that going into that game that they, could have extended that lead, and then they didn't take that opportunity. So It's interesting to see what will happen with Liverpool. Do they have the mentality without obviously the experience to win the Premier League? And only time will tell. But Alex, absolute pleasure talking to you as always. But everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram at the Soccer Podcast. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this episode, and don't forget to subscribe. Goodbye from now from the Soccer Podcast.